Hello everyone, it's Ange de Lumière here. I'm a spiritual lawyer and an intuitive business strategist, and I come on my page, but this also is posted on YouTube and soon on a podcast every Monday at 7 a.m. UK time to talk to you about topics that can inspire you. And I call this High Vibe Monday because sadly, too many people feel actually low on a Monday morning, and this does not have to be. Wherever you are in your life, on your path, whatever situation you're experiencing, Monday mornings do not have to be this dreaded moment. And the reason why it is a dreaded moment for a lot of people is because as we progress through life, from being small children to going to school, to going to secondary school, and then for some university, or for others straight into work, we tend to forget about our dreams. We tend to forget about our purpose. There's not that many people, and those who do are very blessed, who actually are fulfilling their dreams, whether they're their childhood dreams or whether they're the dreams that they have come to embody as adults. So today I'm coming to talk about a question I asked a few days ago, which is, what if businesses had souls? And it's a topic that really fascinates me. I guess I haven't sort of vested interest in this topic because I do akashic records readings for people. And akashic record readings, I'm not going to go too much into the detail because it's going to be the subject of a separate High Vibe Monday. But they are like the book of life of all souls, okay? And most people think that they're just for people, like for me or you, the viewer. But actually, the souls actually can come in different formats as well. And there's a soul, for example, for every country. There's a soul for every government. There's a soul for every organization that's created on this planet. And there's also a soul for every single business that's created on this earth. Now, that might actually shock quite a lot of people that I talk in this way. And if it does, my apologies. I know that the things that I talk about are not for everyone. So that's okay for me, and I hope it's okay for you. But I want you to reflect on this soul business thing, because this is actually the reason why some business go off track. This is why the reason why some businesses, we actually as people don't like them at all. And I've been reading a very interesting book by Simon Sinek. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly. He did a very famous TED talk called Start With Why, and his book is called the same. And I find this man very interesting. He's not, intuitive like me. He's not into akashic records readings or anything like that. But his whole book talks about the why of what we do. And his whole argument in his book, which unfolds beautifully with numerous examples, is that if businesses forget their why, then they become soulless. And he doesn't use that term, but that's exactly what his premise is that very often a business will be born from the aspiration of the founder. And he talks a lot about Apple and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. So that's quite an interesting thing for me, because I had for a long time this love-hate relationship with Apple, more because I had been, I suppose, conditioned, because most of the people that I knew, men as it is, because I'm not a very technical oriented person, but my brother, who was always the one who helped me with computers and stuff and phones, and then my husband's, they were all dead against Apple. They had this thing that Apple was evil, that Apple charged too much money for what they offered, that it was like a cult and all sorts of things. And but what Simon Sinek explains in his book is that Apple stood for stands and still used to stand and still stands for something. It has a big why, and the big why of Apple was infused into the business by its founders, especially Steve Jobs. Now it's really interesting because I don't like Steve Jobs as a person that much. I think he was pretty abrasive, and I didn't like the reports of people who said how, you know, he would abuse employees because he would get into these fits of rage and everything. So but you can't deny the fact that he created a movement. It was much bigger than just a company. It was much bigger than the money. And I think that every business, in a way, should start with that bigger purpose, even if it's just that you create this little coffee shop in your community because you feel that there's a need for this coffee shop for people to meet, to get to connect to each other and everything. The size of the purpose doesn't matter, but there has to be a purpose, a bigger purpose than just your business earning money. Does that make sense? So this is a bit the premise I want to bring to this conversation, and I would love if you come live onto this Facebook Live, which is at the moment recorded as such, to ask me all your questions. If you find this interesting, please post them in the comments, and I would get back to them. So I was actually shown something really interesting when I dived deeper into this topic, because I saw the parallel between us and businesses. Like, both are born at one point, both have a growth, whatever it is, like line or progression. The businesses often you talk about the infancy of their business life when they are just very small, and you know, the startup phase, you could compare that to childhood. And businesses sometimes die as well. So when they go into bankruptcy or when it doesn't work, then they just exit and that's it. The business is gone. Not all of them do. Some of them survive for a very long period of time, but ultimately I think they will all wrap up at some point, at least, you know, I don't know. Or they transform into something else. So I suppose that's where the analogy stops, is that we die probably a lot earlier than businesses do in the grand scale of things. But what I find really interesting is there is this split that can happen when a business grows. And this is what Simon Sinek talks about in his book, which fits incredibly beautifully with the way I look at businesses from my spiritual lawyer's point of view. And that he says that when you reach a certain size where the founder, the influencer, the person that brought the business into life, no longer has a direct impact into the management and the day-to-day operations of the business, that's when the split can happen in the company, and the company can lose its why. And when it loses its why, then actually what's happening is it loses the connection to the soul of the business. Now, this is just to give you an example, because I'm stating this really provocative thing that businesses have souls, which will come to some of you as a provocative statement. But everything is energy. And what I want to explain is that actually the reason why you might not like a company or a provider or anything else, or even a cafe, could be because that business has lost its purpose, or that business is disconnected from its roots, from the energy that created it initially. And it's from that disconnection that then the business can act out of ethics, or in a way that doesn't make sense to you. And it's much more important, even when they sell us soaps. There has to be some sort of consistency behind the business for us to want to buy. It's not just about price or product or convenience. There's a lot more behind it. Now, of course, this is to illustrate how you can relate to a business as a consumer, but I'm talking to you as a business creator and maybe a business owner. And what I want to say is that it's very important for you to connect to the soul of your business. And the reason is, first of all, you're not here doing this alone, okay? Once you have and actually, I'm going to go back even one step further. You think you had that business idea, but what about if the business idea was independent from you? What about if the business idea came to you from inspiration, came to you from this big pool of ideas that is in the collective mind, and that the idea came to pop into your mind because the idea thought you were a fairly good candidate to bring it to life? I used to talk about that when I talk to my clients about their books. I think it's exactly the same. Sorry, I need to take a sip of water. So I think it's exactly the same with books. Books are independent entities from us. They have a soul of their own. They have a purpose of their own. And if we fail as authors to commit to writing our books, then they will find someone else eventually to bring them to life, because they have a bigger purpose than you. And it's the same for your business. So the reason why I talk about this is because if you're connected to the soul of your business is going to be so much easier to manage. It's so much easier to bring to life than if you think you're the creator. If you connect to the soul and the energy of your business, you will be inspired by your business, and things are going to be a lot easier than it would be if you had to think everything. And I don't know if you'll agree with me if you're a business owner, but businesses are very challenging and they require a lot of growth personally from us, because there's so many decisions to make. There's so many things to think about. We're constantly faced with decision. You have to be able to make decisions quickly on the spot, and sometimes you wonder if you've made the right decision. Now, if you're able to connect to the soul, or if you have a really strong why, something very, very clear why you're doing it. And I want to say, making money is not a why. Making money is a what. Okay, businesses make money. That's what they do. Again, if you only focus on the how, so I could say, I do intuitive business coaching and strategy. That's my how, but it's not my why. So my why is much, much bigger than that. Why I'm in business doing what I do is because I'm passionate about helping people function from the highest good, from their highest potential, and that is bigger than them as people. That I believe that we all have a destiny, we all have a purpose, we all have a soul that we are here to fulfill. So my why is to help people know their why. It's to help in their business. It's to bring spirituality into the business world, so that people understand that yes, business entities can actually have a bigger purpose without necessarily being social enterprise. I had this conversation, which I find fascinating, with a client recently, where I said to her, the thing is, no, there should be, people should understand that you don't have to be a charity or a social enterprise to be a part of a bigger purpose. You can just be in mainstream business. Just like I feel the same happens with people. It's not just the people who call themselves spiritual who actually make a difference. It's not, and even necessarily the people who have the most influence who make the biggest impact. And I have the example of a lady I knew who worked for my parents, who was incredible. Everywhere she went, she brought this love. She was loving everyone unconditionally, and she was always smiling and laughing and growing flowers and enjoying children. Children were her world. And everywhere she went, she didn't call herself spiritual. She had no big aspiration, and yet she was the embodiment of love. So I want to say to you, you might not think that you're spiritual or inspirational, or that you have a bigger purpose, but let me tell you something, is once you are shown this bigger purpose, you will function from a completely different level. First, it gives you a sense of clarity, a sense of calm and serenity. it can give you also the motivation to keep going when you hi Jojo, when you're not too sure, you know, what am I doing, you don't see the results for what you're doing, and so you might become slightly discouraged. Well, if you're shown your bigger purpose, if you connect to the soul of your business, whether your business is just you as an author or as an entrepreneur or as a coach, or whether it's a much bigger business, if you connect to the soul of your business, then everything becomes infused with this energy and this enthusiasm and this inspiration that makes it 100 times easier. So this is good morning Jojo. This is what I wanted to talk to you today, is that I believe that businesses have souls. And this is the reason why it's completely logical for me that I should offer business akashic records readings for businesses or for entrepreneurs, because for me, your business has a blueprint. Your business has a bigger purpose than you. Your business has a destiny, and of course it's come to you because you're matching that vibration, and that business idea or career matches with what you are capable of doing. But if it's only when you completely connect and understand the bigger picture that you'll be able to unfold it easier. So let's continue this conversation. What we find is that, so I did a little drawing here. I'm going to show and explain a little bit on verbally, as not everyone will see the image. Is that you are a soul within a body, whether you realize that you're a soul or not. Even if you're the most atheist of all people, that doesn't stop you from having a soul. It's just you can, whether you realize it, that is a different thing. But we are much bigger than just cells and muscles and organs and skin and whatever. And it's the same for your business. Your business is more than a bank account and a name and maybe a domain name and a label. You can have a cafe and run a cafe, but everybody will be running a cafe for different reasons and in different ways and in different sort of contexts. So, of course, the personality and the intent of the cafe owner has an incredible impact on how you will feel when you walk into that cafe. Are you with me? Because there's so many different ways to run a business. So there's got to be something bigger that instills life. And inspired business is what fires me the most. And inspiration comes from breath. It's the root of the word comes from breath, which means life. There is a life behind every business and what we infuse into it. So I want to give you a little bit of an example of what happened to me when I became a bit disconnected to my own business. I started off a couple of years ago wanting to be a spiritual lawyer, and actually it was a bit more complicated than that, but let's say I presented about 3 years ago, wanted to teach everyone about intuition, and it sounded all very good and it just didn't work. So then I pivoted and decided to help people write books, because I'd written so many books myself. I knew I could help people, and on the side, as part of the bundle, I would kind of use my intuition to help them write their books. But this was still disconnected with my purpose, because my purpose is so much bigger than that. What I was shown about a year ago is that I'm here to inspire business owners to make a difference. Now, of course, you can make a huge difference by writing a book, but you can also make an incredible difference by having a very profitable business, which then enables you to increase your reach, but also perhaps to create a non-profit organization from the money that you get from your business. But you can make a difference even from day one. As I said with the example of the cafe, there's some cafes you walk into and you feel immediately amazing. It's like you're away from all your troubles, you're away from home, you're having this little moment to relax. The coffee tastes delicious, the ambiance is incredible. I have a coffee shop like that was created a couple of years ago in the village next to where I live, the town, sorry, next to where I live. And I just love going there, because when I go there, it almost feels like I'm like going into my mum's kitchen. Not that my mum was much nourishing through her kitchen, but how I would imagine my mum's kitchen to be if she had been that kind of mum. And it's a wonderful feeling. And then I walk sometimes into other cafes. I want to run out the other way right away, regardless of whether they are chains or single owner cafes. So there's the way you do things, the spirit behind what you do. It's not the way you do things. Of course, the way you do things comes into it, and the how, everything is important. But at the initiation, at the beginning of that business, there has to be a spark. There has to be a purpose. There has to be a soul. I hope this makes sense. And this soul you can find out through your why. So now I've found my why. I know I'm meant to now go into the business world and bring all the wisdom that I've acquired in the past 15 years through my exploration of the spiritual world, the spiritual laws, which are so much more inspiring than human laws. Human laws used to make me feel like crying sometimes even. And I was a lawyer. I was supposed to do this job. But now I know about spiritual laws, the law of intuition, the law of attraction, how important it is to set your intent, all these little things. And I know how if we brought these practices to the way we do businesses, then we can have an incredible impact in everything that we do, not just outside of our job, within our jobs, whether our jobs are within someone else's business or whether it is actually we're entrepreneurs and we're creating a new business. So the next logical step is that if businesses have souls, then we can read their akashic records, which means we can read the book of life of your business or of your career, of your purpose. And what I want to say here is that even if you don't have a business yet, if you're meant to create one, then you can read the records before it is created. And what it can give you is, first, it connects you to the energy of your business, which makes it so much easier. What the difference it's made for me is that I don't feel lonely in my business anymore, even though I'm a one-person band at the moment. Because I can always ask my business, what's the next step? What am I supposed to do today? This is exactly what I did today, this morning. Before I even got out of bed, I got my notebook out and said, what do you want me to focus on today? And I had a list of 6 or 7 things to do. I did that after I accessed my own akashic records for my business. And this is also something I'd love to teach people, they can access their own records. Hello, Stephanie. This is what I will definitely do through client sessions and in my VIP packages, is to teach you everything you can learn within the akashic records. And lots of things can happen in the akashic records. It's not just information that you get. Very often there's healing that happens. There's removing of blockages. We can work on beliefs, how to remove limiting beliefs. In one of the sessions I had recently with a new client, the entire session was to teach her how to use energy, how to manage her own energy throughout the day, because her work involves working with people who are in very difficult situations. And so she's exposed to people who have an energy of despair, and she was literally absorbing it all day long. And by the end of the day, even though she felt good about the job that she was doing, she was saying that she's totally exhausted. So the session I had with her was mainly to teach her about energy management and how to recognize when someone else's energy had started to impact her, and how not to take other people's problems onto herself so much. So the business akashic records can help you to map out as well a plan for your business. I don't know if Stephanie would be happy for me to share what happened in her own akashic records reading. I'm going to wait for her to answer in the comments, but something pretty big happened in hers, and it was very exciting. So it can enable you to see the very big picture, but also how to get there in tiny steps. So it can be like, you can have a vision depending on the questions you ask, because it really depends on your questions. You can see where you're going to be in 15 years time, or in 10 years time, or in 5 years time, or you can ask just for today. And if you were to access your own, Stephanie's happy for me to share. So we did a Business Akashic Records session with Stephanie, because she was wondering why she wasn't getting more success in her business. She had been inspired, and she's very intuitive, to make a big offer for a coaching package that she wanted to sell. And no one seemed, a lot of people were interested or intrigued, but nobody seemed to buy it. And when we went to the Akashic Records, what I was shown is that her offer was absolutely perfect. She had received the intuitive guidance about what the offer was supposed to be. However, she was offering it to the wrong people. So the Akashic Records showed her who her ideal client was, who she was supposed to go to sell this package. And it came as a surprise for both of us. I'm not going to go into the fine details of what was said, but sometimes it's something as simple as that, is that you're not talking to the right people. You're not being in this, for people who do business in Facebook groups, you're not in the right groups. In her case, she was supposed to go to in-person events and not so much in Facebook groups or on Facebook. So that can make a huge difference, and that you're doing all the right things, but you don't understand what you're missing. That's exactly what the Business Akashic Records can do for you. It can reveal something that once you hear the guidance, you're like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. But before you heard it, you were like lost. You were like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm ticking all the right boxes. All these business coaches have told me to do this, and that. Even my own business coach has been telling me, yeah, do this, and that. And still it's not working. And the reason is because your business is unique to you. No matter what anybody else says, and this is why probably I'm a bit of a different coach than most other business coaches, is that my guidance comes from your business. It comes from the energy of your business and from your helpers in heaven. And I know that people think of guides as these completely disconnected beings that ascended masters, celestial beings, whatever it is, but I actually work with business guides, people who have made a lot of money doing businesses and who are still interested in helping people who are on earth who want to do business, because it's something that made them tick when they were on this planet, and it's no different now that they've died. They still want to help, and they have so much wisdom to offer. Even they realize after they pass over the things they overlooked that they can see now. So they have this power, they have this double vision from first the earth experience, which is very, very grounded, in addition to being able to see the bigger picture. They see things coming. They make me do things that make no sense at all. And yet it has an effect. So this is what I wanted to share with you, is that Akashic Business Records reading for businesses are incredibly powerful. And what it does, it can make you feel connected to your purpose and inspired, and also much more optimistic, because it's like the light switch has been switched on. Instead of you second guessing every step that you take, wondering if you're doing the right thing, and then every time something doesn't work, agonizing of what went wrong, and having the self-doubt creep on you, you'll just think, okay, well, that's not a problem. Maybe it's just the timing, or maybe it's just this. And you can, because I'm going to teach you, you can go back into your own records yourself every day and ask new questions. So I don't know if you have any questions at this point. I've talked quite a bit about the why of companies and how passionate, and this is the thing that was revealed to me. And when I read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is that my offer of Business Akashic Records is exactly that. I can give you the why of your business, and it's going to make such a difference. As Stephanie says, does it work if you don't have your business but want to know your life purpose or life path? Yes, absolutely. It works also for, but I guess I could call it a career Akashic Records reading, or life path. But I want, my goal is to bring spirituality into business, because I feel that these two are disconnected in people's minds. So you can find a lot of other Akashic Records readers who will go into your life path and your purpose and get very general. But for me, I want it to be practical. You know, I'm a reformed, not completely, business lawyer. So I want things that, you know, are practical, that you can apply in your everyday life. I think it's all good to have this big vision, but if you don't have a plan to make it happen, then there's no point. Just like when I do an Akashic Records reading for someone's book, it's not going to make them write their book. But if then we continue to work and ask for the plan on how to bring this book into the world, then we get into the interesting part. Does that make sense? Because there's lots of people who've been told that they have a book in them. And how many of them have actually done it? How many of them have actually implemented the steps and followed the guidance and known what to write about and who their ideal audience is and how to get their book into the world? Because there's so many different options at the moment. It's almost confusing. It's incredibly empowering because you don't have to wait for a publisher anymore to have your book published. But at the same time, it means there's more choices to be made. And this is the thing I was discussing a bit earlier on this video, is that there's so many choices that you have to make daily when you're in business, and being able to open your Akashic Records to help you make those choices is very empowering. Now, I'm going to add just one little bit to this conversation, is that there's actually a way to ask questions in the Akashic Records, and you should always avoid a yes or no question because it's disempowering. And Akashic Business Records are here to empower you. So it's much more about exploring your different options and being shown what the potential, what the journey is going to be like if you choose that over that, if you choose option A as opposed to option B. And so it's much more about you having a look into the bigger picture so that it's easier for you to make those decisions. Does that make sense? So yeah, it could be more general, but I like to apply it to something really practical and to business, because my why is to bring spirituality into business. My why is to help entrepreneurs function from the highest of their potential, but also for the highest good of everyone. So in a way, it's to bring back a sense of purpose for every single business and every single person that works within that business, so that we can all contribute to a better earth. That sounds very woolly, but that's true. If every business was on course, if everybody's business was connected to their why, they would no longer care only about the bottom line. There would be something much bigger to it. And to be frank, I think a lot of entrepreneurs start their business with big dreams, but it's when they start growing and growing and growing, it's actually the challenge comes from the growth. And this is exactly what Simon Sinek explains in his book, Start With Why, which I find absolutely fascinating, is that he says when you reach a level of being relatively big, if you don't have a why, or if you've forgotten why, that's when things go pear-shaped. And if I was an entrepreneur and I had lost my why and I was successful on paper and I had a really nice bottom line, but I wouldn't feel like I'm doing a difference, then I wouldn't feel successful. There's a very big difference between being successful, like something measurable in terms of money, in terms of whatever, how healthy your business is, to the feeling of being successful. And Simon Sinek talks about it as well in his book, which I find fascinating. He talks about the gathering of titans that happens apparently once a year in Boston, I think, where the MIT is. And he was invited to talk about what his book to this meeting. And these are people who are like multimillionaires. They're incredibly successful. I'm pretty sure when Steve Jobs was alive, he would have attended that meeting. And so at one point in the meeting that he attended, the people attending were asked, and these meetings are very informal. They're more like coming together to share ideas and inspiration and everything. There's no like formal presentation, but they were asked if they had reached their targets financially, and 80% of the people in that meeting had. Okay, so this is definitely a sign of success. And yet when they were asked if they were feeling successful, 80% said no. Now, what this means is that 80% of these very rich and successful people in your mind, when we look at them, we think, oh my God, this is amazing. They had lost their sense of purpose. They had lost their why. And a lot of them regretted their so-called poor days when they were starting their business in their garages and had to tinker and try and find out solutions, because then they were fired by a purpose, they were fired by a bigger why, and along the way they lost it. This is definitely the people I want to work with. This is also definitely the people who need our help, for other people who do the same work as I do. And then there needs to be lots of us to bring that inspiration back into business. And I personally do it through Business Akashic Records readings and through my packages, because I love to inspire people, not just to get the big vision. I've given the big vision in one-off sessions to so many people, but once you want to implement it and make it happen, then you would need someone like me or someone else who does something similar to take you through the steps and to keep you accountable to, yeah, this is what we said you would do. So where are you at with this, and how can we make it happen one step at a time? And I have a client I did an Akashic Records reading for. I saw her creating a completely different type of bank. She was coming into the financial world to completely change the scenery, something very bold, and she got completely scared. She got cold feet because she just thought, oh my God, I can't possibly do this. If she had signed up for a package with me to work with me for two months. My packages did 2 months. So, 3 months. The first month we have a session per week, and then the following 2 months I call that the maintenance package. It's part of the bigger one, and we have 2 sessions per month. And in between sessions, we're always in contact through a dedicated Facebook group that I called Your Sacred Space. Had she signed up for my VIP package, she would start implementing her big vision of the bank that's going to change the future of banking. But she hasn't, and I feel sorry for this. And well, one day she might, and it's entirely up to her. But it's about committing to that vision once you get it. Does that make sense? So if you're interested in my services, this is not a pitch, but you can check on my website, which is almost up to scratch now, which is called icanhelpyouthrive.com. And I want to thank you for listening to me today. This is probably going to go on YouTube, and as well, as I said, on my podcast when the time comes. It's been a pleasure to have you today. Thank you, and bye-bye.